Really excited to be here with you today, if at least virtually. And before we get started, I do want to make sure, I know that with virtual training like this, there's always people who are new to the platform. So I really want to make sure that you know how to ask a question. Savo had said it was on the right of her screen. For me, it's on the bottom. So will you please just take a moment, look for the symbol that says chat, and say something in chat. That would be helpful because then I'll know that you know how to ask a question. So I'm looking in the chat bar. Can you guys hear me? Okay, so Nor says hi. Hi, Nor. Got one person, but there's many of you on here. Okay, yep, good, good. Keep it coming. Hi. That's 4 or 5 of you. Let's get a few more. I want to really, hi, Renew, how are you? Great. Sasan, I see you on there. Say hi to me. Can I get a few more hellos? I really want to make sure you know how to use the chat.
So some of them sent the chat privately. So make sure, make sure when you send it, the like 2 should be to everyone. And if you have a specific question you want to send privately, then you can choose the name. So make sure it's to everyone.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Okay, there you are, Sasan. Chakan. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. If you could see where I'm at right now, you would laugh. So I'm in a bedroom in my house, and I have surrounding me an iMac, a display, an iPad, a MacBook, and a phone, so that I can see all these different angles and show you full screen. So if I'm looking around, that is why. All right, so I am going to share my screen and go to full screen for our presentation. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sava. What would I do without you? So today's topic is build your beautiful brand. And this is something I've taught for years. I really love teaching this subject. And I want to say before we even get started that although I'm not one of those Americans who've never been outside of their own town, I have traveled very extensively, including in the Middle East region. I appreciate that I don't have the active understanding of the challenges that you face on the ground, particularly with issues like banking and intellectual property. And I know that that's a very sensitive and challenging issue for business builders in your market, particularly because there's no intellectual property protection available to you. So when I'm presenting this, it's also trying to have that lens, and I will be asking you questions throughout because I want this workshop to be very meaningful and impactful for your business building. Also, if I'm speaking too fast, because I do tend to speak quickly, please tell me slow down. That's totally fine. And then finally, you are welcome to pop your questions in the chat at any time because we have an hour's worth of training here, 45 minutes, and then questions. So I want to make sure that we capture your questions and that you don't forget them. So sound good? Yes? Somebody tell me yes in the chat. Savo's got my back. Okay, great. All right, so welcome to this training. Again, this is a subject I really love to teach. I hope I got those right. We checked that you could see the chat, so that's great. And so who is this training for? So you're in the right place if you're just starting out, but you're not 100% sure what you plan to build or who your target customer is. This is a really common challenge or place to be for new business builders. It's a natural part of the startup process. Very often, almost all of the time, people start a business because they have an idea that they want to bring to market and they are passionate about the subject. It might be solving a problem that they personally have, but they don't really know then what to do with it. The idea is fantastic, but the idea is not a business. And so if that is where you're at, this is a great workshop for you. If you've already started your business, but you can't seem to get the traction that you need to move your business forward, so maybe you're already selling what you sell, your products or your services, maybe you have some early stage customers, maybe you have some money trickling in, but it's just not sustainable. This is also a great workshop for you. Give me one sec, I'm just pulling this up. And yeah, another slide. Yeah, another device. There we go. And then if you want to stand out from the crowd, which is something that I thought a lot for your market, but it's true actually for every market, that business builders, they want their business to stand out for the crowd. They may have competition. We very often have competition. And so what is that special thing that you can bring to your target customer that will create an emotional relationship with them? Because that is, as humans, that is really how we make purchase decisions, is through an emotional connection. We think it's rational, but it's really not. The majority is emotional. And so how do we create that connection with our target audience so that they choose us instead of the competition and then keep wanting to buy from us? So I want to take a moment here and ask, why did you sign up for this training? So you could answer this as either something you wanted to learn or something you're struggling with. And if you could put that in the chat, that would be great. So I'll just wait a minute here because I'd really like to hear from you. Why did you sign up for this training? I'm waiting, I'm looking in the chat. I know there's many, many people on this training. So yep, looking for some good ideas. Started a new Omar, that's great, but where's the challenge? So you started a new startup, and so what are you hoping to get out of this training? See challenges earlier, so avoid common mistakes. Yeah.
So Halbash is saying, I want to set up a new global brand, and he sent it privately. So,
okay. How can you be different in the market, improve your new business? Savo, can you say that one more time, please?
So Halbash is saying, I want to set up a new global brand.
Okay, so you want to set up a new global brand, and we should come back to that because we didn't. I didn't put much in here about the legal side of brand, but for a global brand, if you're just starting out, there are some things to think about for the brand. Okay, great. So we'll move on. So in this lesson, we're going to talk, and Noor says, I started my business a year ago. It was the first waxing center in the city. I want to learn to build a brand for the whole of Iraq, and what should I be doing now? What's the best thing to do now? Okay, that's great. So in this lesson, you'll learn what is a brand identity and why does it matter. We won't assume in this training that you have this vocabulary because it's very common that people do not have this vocabulary, and that is fine. And then how can your brand help you attract and retain new customers? So this is really about making people aware of the fact that you exist, and then that helping them understand how to work with you. And we're not going to get too much into marketing. If that's something you're interested in, like how to leverage social to drive awareness, then please tell 51 Labs that, because that's really great training as well. And then what do you need to do before you create your brand? It's really, really common for the students that I work with or the clients that I have who are starting a new business. They'll come and they'll say, all right, I have this thing that I want to sell and I chose my company name and here's my logo. So what do I do next? And what we do next is we go back and we do the work that we're outlining in this workshop. So you'll also, I'm going to share with you, these are my favorite simple, free, and fun tools that can give you a brand that looks great, feels right, gives you instant credibility in the market. And I really love these tools, and I'm pretty sure you can access every single one of these tools, because I know that sometimes some websites can be blocked, but we tested these. So I think that you can access all of them, and all of them are mostly free. So if not completely free, they're mostly free. So let's get into it. This is define and create your own beautiful brand. And I do think that wherever you are on your entrepreneurial journey, that you're going to love this masterclass. I certainly hope you will, but I would really love at the end of this masterclass if you feel like you can take away some great tools and tips to apply to your business right now. So I want to take a moment and introduce myself. My name is Wendy. I live in Portland, Oregon, and I'm a marketing consultant, startup coach, and trainer and educator. So what does that mean? So I have an MBA in international business, and my corporate career focused on marketing, sales, and entrepreneurship. So I worked in technology for most of my corporate career. I worked for Adobe, Apple, Google, and mostly overseas, in the Silicon Valley for a while. But then I lived for quite a while in Australia and then Singapore, working across 14 countries. When I worked for Adobe, I went to Europe a lot. So I tend to see things with thinking about a global lens. And now I work with startups and individuals. So I work with people all over the world, and I really enjoy doing that. For, I'm going to say, the last 5 or 6 years, I've basically been working with early stage business builders like yourself in different capacities. I love this picture from the 51 Labs website, but I am a mentor for 51 Labs. I have both my mentees on this training, so that's exciting. Hello, both of you. And I'm also a former board member for something called the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network, which is a large membership community for entrepreneurs, all kinds of businesses from tech to apparel to food businesses. I am a instructor for Mercy Corps Northwest, which is the domestic arm of a global humanitarian aid agency, which the founder of 51 Labs actually used to work for. And to the right is one of my classes. One of the things I love about the classes is the diversity of people in the classrooms and their ideas. And I'm also an instructor at the School of Business at Portland State University. So I teach entrepreneurship and marketing. And as much as I love that work, excuse me, frog in my throat. As much as I love that work, I do prefer to work with adults who are really creating their businesses, because there are very common things that happen regardless of the type of business, very common challenges. And it's fun to help people get from one point to another in their business. I also have an online classroom, which is called You Get Business. Actually rebranded that from She Gets Business to You Get Business, because I have so many people I work with who are men or don't identify as women. So it is online learning. I use Zoom and an online classroom technology, and that is why it's so easy to work with people all over the world, and it's very fun. All right. So let's get into it. What is brand? What does brand mean to you? If you could please put it into the chat, what brand means for you. Let's start there. Nobody's brave enough to tell me what brand means. A useful product in a suitable name. Okay. How people would see me. Yep. Something that will represent you. Or your business. Yep. Get a few more.
Albash is saying it's a business's face.
A business's face. Yep. A brand is what people will recognize first and think about you. An identification for a business or product you'd be recognized by. People recognize you. It shows what my business is. Great. An icon to make a community for the customers. Great. Thank you very much. So brand is a lot of things. Some people were referring to the logo or the mark. And that is part of brand, but a lot of times people will say like the mark itself, the logo is the brand. So it's not just that. It's not just your fonts, the kind of typography you choose for your business. It's not your pretty packaging, although pretty packaging can certainly help your business stand out from the crowd. So I love this quote from Jeff Bezos, who is the CEO and founder of a little company called Amazon. And he says, your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And I love this quote because this is really about the emotional connection between the brand and the target customer. This is really all those things, the brand voice, meaning the words that you use, the colors, the fonts, the vibe. I don't know if you use that word. My English speaking students are often like, my native English speaking students are often like, what is vibe? So by vibe, what we mean is how people feel when they're, and how you want them to feel. So it's all of those things. And it's if somebody were to describe your business and no one from your business is there, how would they describe the business? And this is really what helps you stand out from the crowd, because there's all sorts of things that you can do. You know, you could sell coffee and the company next to you can sell coffee. And we know this intuitively because we are also consumers, right? You make choices every day about where you're going to buy your bread, your coffee, a t-shirt. You make these decisions yourself. So it's important to think about, why do I make the decision to go to this place and not that place? And that really has to do with this emotional connection with the brand. So in other words, your vibe. And I like this expression, your vibe is your tribe. So, you know, what you're putting out there in terms of the kinds of people you want to attract, that is the magnet that is going to bring those people in. And I say all the time, and I'll show you in this presentation, that I have a very strong visual brand for my own business. But really, it's very authentic to me. And I'm going to show you how I got to this brand. But I am sure that there are people who go to my website, maybe even you went to my website and were like, whoa, there's a lot of color and pattern here, and it doesn't appeal to you. That's totally fine, because we as business builders and our businesses, everyone is not our customer. We do have specific customers, and it's not everyone. So if somebody is not, doesn't feel connected to your particular brand, totally okay. So they're not your customer. So where do you start in this process? How do you start building a brand? So I told you a lot of times people I'll work with will say, okay, I got a logo. It's just something I made. I got a company name. My name is, Starfish, whatever. And I made a Starfish logo and I'm ready to go. And often what we do is we go back to the beginning. So beautiful brands start with a lot of thought. And the thing that I really want to impress here is that the thought does not have to take a lot of time. So there is a fine balance between thinking about things and very intentionally creating a brand versus letting perfectionism stop you from moving forward. And so if you find yourself not able to move forward on decisions because it's not quite right or it's not perfect, what really is happening there is fear. So there is that fine balance between thinking about things, making very clear intention, and moving forward. Don't let yourself get stuck. So I really do fundamentally believe that the best brands start with you. So it starts with, who are you? What is it that you're trying to bring to market? What is important to you? Sorry, I'm just looking at a quick thing here. So I don't want to miss this point that I want to make for you. Yeah, and the people that I tend to work with, I mean, I'm sure that there are people out there that start a business solely for the purpose that they want to make money and they're not actually very interested in what they're doing, but they're just doing it for the money. Those don't tend to be the people that I work with. I work with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that feel very strongly and passionately that they would like to bring this business to market. So I do believe that that is crucial. And then we go to our customers. So again, everybody is not your customer. This is really important because this is what helps you understand how you can stand out for your target customer. An example I often use here in an in-person class is I'll have people write down why they go to their favorite coffee shop. And the answers are very different. Some people will go to, if you know the chain Starbucks, it's a chain, it's a franchise, and they're everywhere. And so they'll say, I go there because I can know exactly what, I have my drink that I get, and it's at any of the places I go. It has free Wi-Fi. It has, very predictable food. But by example, that is where I would myself would 100% not go, because Portland is a city that has all these very wonderful, creative, small business coffee shops. And I would happily drive across town to not go to Starbucks. And so you have to think about what you want to put out in the world, what your bigger vision is, and what your customer wants. And then you infuse that into your brand and your marketing. So this really informs your product. In this class, we're not focused on value proposition, but when I'm teaching entrepreneurship, for example, through the MBA program, we will start with the customer and the hypothesis of who we believe that customer is. And then they go use research, primary and secondary research, by actually talking to customers and validating their assumptions about who this customer is, what they want and need. And it's a very important part of the validation of your business idea. So I like this quote, don't find customers for your product, find products for your customers. And what this means is, a very common mistake for business builders is they'll create something and they'll say, okay, now I need to go find somebody who wants to buy that. So in lean canvas startup methodology, you would flip that around and you would say, what is the need in the market? And then I'm going to build that product. So it's a different approach, and I think a very powerful approach. Then we look at your competitors. So I often use the word peers instead of competitors because I believe that there is room in the market for people to sell the same things to different people. But I think this is a really important exercise of understanding your competitors or your peers, because then you're understanding what options your customer has out in the world. If they're not buying from you, how are they solving the problem? So this is a template, which I'm happy to provide to you as well, that basically helps you identify how you compare to other options out there. So for example, you'd look at your product, your place, which is where are you located, your price, and your positioning, the 4 P's of marketing, and you'd compare that against the other companies. And here's where you find opportunity. So for example, I had a student who was creating a dog daycare service. And in an area where there were a lot of people who would have to leave their dogs at home and go to work all day. And these people believe that the dogs are like an extension of their family. So they very much want to take care of them and feel terrible about leaving their dog home. So she was able to map out what other kinds of dog care places, what they had, and identify the things that she could do that are unique to the business. You know, customer service is another place where a lot of people can either fail or shine. And you can use simple technologies such as a chatbot on your website, where if somebody goes to your website, they immediately get a little message that says, "Hi, do you have any questions? How can I help you?" And you on the business side can then see what kind of questions people are asking and answer them right away. So these, and it doesn't have to be technology infused. We have a national chain here that was started in Oregon that is called Dutch Brothers Coffee. I personally do not like Dutch Brothers Coffee, but they have huge fans. And the reason why is because they pick locations that are right off the entrances to major freeways. And so the first thing is location, in that it's really convenient for somebody who is driving to work to drive through the drive-through and get their coffee without having to leave their car. But the other thing that I hear from customers of Dutch Brothers and the people who work there is Dutch Brothers puts a huge emphasis on customer service. So they will say, the people who work there will say their customers will say, "I love coming here because you always greet me by name and you remember what my drink is." So imagine driving up and someone says, you know, "Hi, Zara, nice to see you again. Okay, you want the same coffee? It's, you know, this drink." That just makes you feel loved. It makes you feel remembered. And everybody likes that. So customer service is a place. So this is a really important piece. And if you're resistant to doing this, it's not hard. It does not need to be perfect. It is very important. It is very much the part about standing apart in a crowd. The other thing I would do here is I would go, if the company has websites or a physical storefront, I would go experience it like their customer would. So if you're opening a coffee shop, I would go to the other coffee shop. I might go at different times in the day and order my coffee and experience what the customer experiences. And then I might take notes and think about, okay, how was my experience here? What would I do differently? What did I really like here? So this is not about copying somebody else's business. I do know that that is a challenge for you in your market, that, you know, there's Burger King and somebody opens Burger Queen. But ultimately, because you are a unique individual and can bring unique things to your business, these are the touch points that set your business apart. Then once you know, you've validated who your customer is, what the need out is in the market, who else is solving this problem, then you can hone down into your unique value. And because we're not teaching this in this class, if we had more time, I'd go into how to create a unique value proposition statement, or a UVP. But this is often what you'll see when you go to a website. On top, above the fold, that means the first thing that you see when you go to the website. It's a very clear statement of what they sell, for whom, and why they're so amazing. So it's just a really clear way. It's also really helpful if somebody says, what do you do? You can say this very clear statement about what you sell, who your target customer is, and why it's so amazing. And then out of all of this comes the brand vibe. So how do you want people to feel? What is that emotional connection that you want people to have? And how does that translate visually into things like your mark, that is your logo, the colors that are used, the fonts you choose, that kind of thing. So this is the heart of building our brand. Then your brand assets. So the brand assets are those things, those physical things, the things like the logo, the website, all those things. So I'll introduce to you something I call the brand pyramid. And this is basically what we just talked about in a one-page graphic. So you start down below with your core values, then to target customer, then to product service, because you're not creating products, then finding customers. You're thinking about customers and the problems they have and creating solutions. Then who else is out there, then your unique value, then the brand vibe, and then the brand assets. So when those people come to me and they say, hey, I have a logo, now what? I'll go back and I'll start asking the questions like, why are you starting this business? What is the problem in the market? Who needs this? And we'll go and do all of that work. Okay, I'm just going to stop for a second and look in chat and say any questions so far. Anyone? Okay. So here's an example of this. I'm sharing from my business because it's the easiest thing for me to do to show you a brand trajectory, but this is true for hundreds of businesses I've worked with. So this is why I started my business. I left the corporate world and I decided I realized that there were a lot of people who wanted to start businesses but didn't have the core business skills or knowledge and really needed confidence. So the why that I'm creating the business that I want is I have a very high value for the health and well-being of myself and my family. I have a 10-year-old daughter. It's really important to me to be able to spend time with her. And I didn't want to be on an airplane anymore because when I lived in Australia and Singapore, I was traveling a lot. So I wanted to be present for her. So I wanted flexibility, independence, freedom, and lifelong learning. So continuously learning is a very high value that I have. And through my work, I want to create equitable access to opportunity through education. So I work with a lot of low-income people here in the US. I have a lot of single parents, people who've been struggling and want to start a business and need that extra help doing so. So through my teaching, I can help that happen. So my vision is a global community of entrepreneurs empowered with the skills and resources they need to create their own profitable businesses. And profitable is a very important word there because I want people to understand how to get from idea to predictable cash flow. So my target customer happens to be from 25 to 55. It generally is a woman that, again, I recently rebranded because I was working with so many people who are not women. But they're smart, capable, passionate, generally in the early stage of their business building. They have a growth mindset, meaning they want to learn, they want to improve. They need business skills, business knowledge, confidence. They speak English because that is what I teach in. And they're comfortable with technology or willing to learn because I use tools like Zoom to teach. So my unique value is I provide high quality, empowering, and fun learning experiences for early stage entrepreneurs all over the world. So this is what sets me apart from a lot of the coaches that are out there, in that I use technology so I can work with anyone wherever they are as long as they're connected. There's a lot of people who call themselves coaches but don't have any background training in curriculum design and development, and I do. I really try to make my classes fun. I'm a very informal person, and I tend to joke around a lot, and that is what the style of my teaching is. So I try to make it fun. So overall, the brand vibe that I want to put out in the world is, if my brand were a person, and this is a very classic branding exercise, if your brand was a person, who would you be? Thanks, Nora. Nora says, I want to be your customer. It would be an explorer or adventurer, friendly, approachable, informal, fun and funny. And I want that brand to feel like a trusted friend that you turn to for great advice. So this is from my website. This is me with lots of makeup, but you can see there is quite a lot of color and pattern happening here, but frankly, it looks very much like my house, and I love it. And when I was trying to find somebody a graphic designer and web developer to create my brand, because that is not something I myself do, I needed somebody to translate visually all this stuff that I wanted to put out into the world into the brand assets. There's plenty of people who say, oh, I can do that, but then I'd go to their website and I'd be like, well, that doesn't show the evidence that you can create this. So I love this, but I want to show you an example, which is my colleague Bill. So this is Bill Horton, and he also teaches the exact same thing that I do, the exact same classes at Mercy Corps. And so I love to use his website as an example, because, as I said, I'm sure there's people who go to my website and be like, what is going on here? And would go to Bill's website and be like, oh, okay, that's what I'm looking for. The guy in the sweater with the business shirt. It feels a lot more businessy. But to me, this isn't very exciting. And that's totally fine, because he'll have his customers that want to work with him. Maybe they want to work with him because he looks more businessy, because he's a man, because they like the words that he's using. Doesn't really matter. The point is that when someone comes to my website and it resonates for them, that's my customer. And Bill can never do this. Bill can never do this, and I can't do that. Hamid says, can you tell us why you choose pink color for your brand? It's funny, because that is one thing that I really struggled with literally this week. So stay with that question, and I'm going to show you. But ultimately, part of the reason why is because I love pink. I love not baby soft pink, but in your face, full of energy pink. And living in Australia, pink is a color that men very commonly wear, pastels and pink in Australia. And then in Asia, and particularly in places like Thailand, but many other countries, it's very common for men to wear pink. And I love the energy of those colors. It just really resonates for me, but it is something I struggled with, and we'll get back to that for a second. And you'll see, actually, I did not use in these slides that same pink. So I'm going to show you what that brand looks like. So this is about 5 or 6 years ago when I decided that I wanted to move from corporate to consulting and coaching. And this is because I had just moved from Singapore back to Portland, and I was meeting a lot of people. I was on a board for the OEN, Oregon Entrepreneurs Network, and I was meeting a lot of, business owners from large companies. But people kept asking me, like, are you looking for a job, like, in the company? And I kept saying, no, I'm really not. I do this other thing. So I needed a placeholder website, and this is what I came up with. The stuff, the birds behind me are wallpaper in my house by an artist I love. I actually asked the artist the permission to use it on my website, but this was really just a placeholder website. And then I went through this process. So the first name that I had was called Great Work, and specifically it said empowering and enabling women entrepreneurs. So I went, this is a little pixelated, but I hope you can see okay. But basically we have a lot of color and pattern, and I pulled this together on a Word document, and I really wanted to have sort of this modern but sort of eclectic font and this feeling. And so I decided that I was going to call my practice Great Work Inc. And I got the URL greatworkinc.com. And I did this, say, around in October, November. And then we went into the holiday season here. So I set it aside, and January comes around and I said, I want to get back to that. So let's make it real. And I went and I found that between then and between, say, October-ish and January, teachers had created this business called Great Work Inc. And they had taken the domain name greatworkinc.org. So Inc. is a word that it stands for incorporated, and we tend to use it for businesses, not nonprofits. And the term great work or work is something that's used in the type of education these teachers do, which is Montessori. So they had already taken the social handles across, and I couldn't use it. And sure, I could go after them and say, hey, I had the name first, but who wants to do that with teachers? I don't. So but I did have this evolution of this brand, right? So I'm pulling together, and you can see what I have here is there's art, there's patterns, there's different colorways, there's a particular sort of energy here. And this is a little bit pixelated, but then this is what I sent to my designer, and you can see in the lower right-hand corner some different logos that she was creating. And ultimately, my designer makes me laugh very much, because on the left-hand side, you see this picture of this sort of crazy-looking lady, and that's from a famous old movie. And I had said to her, okay, I love all these colors and patterns, but I don't want to look too, crazy lady. And so she put that in there to make me laugh. But ultimately, this is what my brand board looks like now. And so you can see that there are these primary colors and these fonts. I'll share with you when we go through the tools, these fonts you can see. And these are textures that I use. So, and then this is the logo. So I have a primary logo, and then the one on the right is for my classroom. Okay, so let's play with some free, fun and mostly free tools. So I'm going to pop out of this full screen here so I can see my screen. I really love these tools. And Savo, I think we're going over, so am I in trouble? Am I in trouble?
No.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to share this screen, move my chat over here. Okay, so let me start by asking, has anyone in here used Pinterest before? Please share in the chat if you've used Pinterest. Yes, says Renu. Yeah, okay, great. Lots of you have used Pinterest. So I don't use Pinterest for my business, only because, you gotta limit what you do in different places and can't do all the things. So I'm going to do a little screen changing here. So I have two Pinterest IDs. One is my real name, which is the business side, so you can easily find me there. And one is a secret name, because I don't want people to see everything I pin. But so this is the business ID. And what I do in here, I just have these kind of placeholder things, but what I do in here is I go to my boards and I have these secret boards. So when I was creating this first brand and working with my designer, so a secret board means nobody else can access this except who I invite. So I wanted to share, you know, a vibe with her of what this brand might look like and why. So there's a lot of global stuff in here, these kind of Indian textiles, you know, this kind of Persian sort of classic designs. This is India again, wallpaper in my house, this carpet's in my house. So I wanted a very particular feeling. And as we went to evolve the brand, my goals were to move from feeling quite very feminine to a little bit more rock and roll. But having said that, I really do love pink and red together. So I created this brand board, or this collection of images, looking at different examples of pink and red together. And I don't feel that this comes across as girly, like what I mean is like little girl. I think it's kind of in your face, feminist and women. I love this. I'm not bossy, I'm the boss. There's a lot of great attitude in here. And again, I certainly do work with men, but this was an evolution of the brand. And just to show you how this worked for, see if I have it in here. This is what I did for another client. And so, and there might be some naughty words in here, but this client is a lot more modern than I am, and there's some of the similar things that I just pulled from there because I was like, okay, I love this. So I want you to see that Pinterest can be a really great way for you to create a brand. So you can search for a bunch of things here, and the term I want you to know is brand board. And a brand board is what a designer would use to provide to you the visual summary of what this brand can look like. So here's one, and this one feels quite modern. It's in French. So moonlight and sage, we can see that there are these logos here, these colors here, these patterns here, icons here. So you can get a lot of inspiration here. And let's say that if there was, you know, I want brand board and I want a particular color. So let's say I want blue. So here I can see these brand boards that are incorporating blue color, and I can decide whether or not any of these resonate for me. But you could use other adjectives, maybe fun. So here immediately we have a different kind of feeling. So this is you could really actually spend a lot of time in here if you want. But what I want you to know, what I want you to take away is that for Pinterest, you can get a lot of inspiration from different brand boards. And then you can also collect ideas for your own visual inspiration and keep them there for you. And I never use this, my business hub. I'm going to go back to, come on. So what we did for this project, if I go to my boards, not my quotes, but for this client, we've got patterns, stock photos, logos, colors, and fonts. So I also wanted to have stock photos that were a good visual representation of this person's target customer. Okay, so that's Pinterest. So let's say that you're on a, you want to look for fonts and you don't know where to start. So the most important thing to know is that you have, you can have this serif, which has these little kind of embellishments there, or sans serif, which means it does not have those handwritten or script or two others. So you can search in my fonts for different types of fonts, like maybe you want modern sans serif fonts. And then you can see these different font options. And if something resonates for you, you can just take a little screen grab of it and pull it into your Pinterest board. So what's cool here is that you can also put in your own words into the, let's see, where can I? Somewhere in here you can put into your own words and see what it looks like for your name. So let's say that you find a font somewhere on somebody else's website and you don't know what the font is. You can upload the font here and it will give a suggestion. So let's go to 51 Labs. And I go to the website and I say, oh, I like this font. This font is the font that I don't know if it'll let me. Yeah, it will. 5-1. And then I can pull that. Come on. I can pull that into here. And it's going to find fonts that looks similar according to it, right? So I look through these and let's say, oh, I can't, this isn't really, I can put, a different font here, maybe your business name, for example. And I can see, do I like this in here? Well, let's say that none of these are a match. You can then consult an expert from the community and you can ask them what the font is. And these are people who just identify fonts all day long and find out what the name of that font is. And then you could go, if you wanted to, you could buy the font and then use the font. So let's say that you then want to know a font that's on a particular website and you want to see if you can just find it out. There is a tool for that. So Furbish Studio, I think is the name. This is a website I love. And I have up here in Chrome this little F question mark. So this is a Chrome extension, browser extension called What Font. It's free. You can see right here it says remove from Chrome. If you are new to it, you just click on add to Chrome and then you would see this little F here. And I can use that by clicking on it. And then I can go and I can say, oh, okay, that's Futura. This is Burka. This is Engravers Gothic. I can see what color it's in and the size. It's a really, really fun tool. Oh, one thing I did want to go back and show in my fonts is they also have beautiful fonts in Arabic and Kurdish. So I'll just go Arabic fonts. Or typefaces is another word you can use. And then I can see what these wonderful fonts are, how beautiful that is. And so those are things, if you were to be using both English and a different or one language, this is a great way to get those fonts. So that's Arabic and Kurdish. Again, really, really beautiful, many, many, many options, hundreds of options. So that's super cool. Okay, so that was what font, what's the font, and this Chrome browser extension. And then the next thing I wanted to show you is another browser extension called Colorzilla. And it is also, this is it. You could do it in Firefox or Chrome. I happen to use Chrome. So you simply install. So up here, you can see this little eyedropper. So let's say I'm back at this website and I'm like, this is the red I want, this red. I can click on my color picker and I can pick the color from the page. And then I go back here and I see that the color picker, the hex color, which is the exact recipe, I can see the number here, F22454. So that's super cool. So as you have your secret board in Pinterest, you can start collecting fonts that you like, colors that you like, patterns that you like and go out and get there. This is another thing that I love. It's called Creative Market. It has graphics, icons, templates, all sorts of things. So if I wanted to do, you know, like fonts, this is another place where I could get fonts. A lot of the people will post here and in other places where people might want to buy fonts, and I can see the bundles here. But there's all sorts of stuff on here. So the next thing I want to show is Stocksy. And this is my very favorite place to get stock photos. And that is because you can use sort of this demographic, psychographic filtering. So here I've got one, hijab is the word I put in here. And so let's say I have a business and my target customer is women, and I know that you've seen stock photos that are horrible. So we want to avoid that. We want to have stock photos that the other person isn't going to have access to. And so you can say, all right, I want photos. I want this to be a wide photo. And then people, I want it to show women, let's say for this particular thing, I want the women to be in their 20s, 30s, or 40s. And then I can go down to ethnicity. So I can say, okay, I want them to be Middle Eastern. And now I have these wonderful photos that are quite beautiful, high res, that I can use in my market. And they are certainly more expensive than many places where you can get free photos. But one or two of these photos will really take you a long way. So you would be fine with a $15 small photo. For many of my clients, we pick 2 or 3 anchor photos, and we just use those photos over and over again because they're so, they become part of their brand assets. And Savo has just put into chat, My Fonts, Furbish Studio, Creative Market, and Stocksy. Thank you. And then Colorzilla is the other one that we would want to put in there. So that's Colorzilla font extension. Okay, so the next thing that I love is Canva, and it's the last thing I'm going to show you, and it's really fun. So fair warning, Canva is free. You can choose to pay. So if you have I do pay myself because I have, and I haven't uploaded my brand new logos here, but I have my brand colors and my custom fonts here. But you don't necessarily need to do that. I'm going to go back and answer the question about why I chose the hot pink. So this is my earlier brand, and you can see that there's a sort of softer W, and it's a very, very feminine font, and it's here for business as well. And so I really struggled with whether or not I wanted to keep that pink, or if I wanted to change it to a color that in at least an American cultural context feels very feminine, which is pink. As I said, in other markets, it's not interpreted particularly as feminine. And I went back to my brand board, and I used these tools, and I tried many, many different color combinations to see if I wanted to move away from it. It is a place where I myself got stuck. And I ultimately settled on the fact that if I were to move away entirely from the pink, that I'd really be losing a lot of the energy that I really love about pink and red against each other. And I would really be changing a lot of my website, which I didn't want to do because I really love my website exactly as it is. And it does a great job of attracting who I want to attract. So that is why I chose the pink, because I love the color and because I love pink and red against each other. And because I want this brand vibe. And I certainly have men who are like, yep, I want to work with you. And that's awesome. But I don't want to, I really want to keep my brand as is. Hope that answers the question. So in here, you can go to create a design. So I was just teaching a class yesterday about doing surveys. And you can see down here these different things: animated social media, Instagram posts, Facebook posts, but also things like your resumes or presentations or worksheets or flyers, all these kinds of things. So let's say that I'm going to do an Instagram post. So I pick Instagram post, and then I have within here all of these templates, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of templates that I can pick. So I'm going to pick one of these, and because I like color, I'm going to pick this one. So I happen to love this pink and red. But let's say that and then someone says for free, high quality photos, there is Unsplash so that you don't have to pay. Yes, Unsplash, but also there's photos in here, and I'm going to show you that. So here's this picture here. Let's say I want to change this picture. On the left-hand side, I can go to where it says photos. And let's say that I want to sell, you know, it's a beach thing, something related to the beach. I don't know. So I can take these pictures, and you can see in tiny letters here, it says free. Or somewhere down here, there's something that will have a little gold, a gold crown that shows it, like this one, it says it's $1. So there's plenty of free images that I can choose from. So I just drag it over and it's right there. Now, let's say that I want to change the colors on here. I happen to like this color combo, but let's say I want to change this pink. I can just go up here and change the color. And it's literally that simple. And I can also do that by clicking on this plus sign. And do you remember here in Colorzilla, we picked a color from the page and we have this recipe here for this particular color. Well, let's say that's my brand color and that's the color I want to use instead of this bright red. I can just go in here and put in my color, and now I've got that color. It was that easy. And then I can play with this. So I can use the exact colors of my brand. I can also change the fonts. So this one happens to be called Glacial Indifference. And what we can see down here is that there are these fonts that have crowns by them, which means they cost money. And it's not expensive. It's like $1 to use the font. But let's say that I don't want to do that. There are plenty of other fonts that I can use. But if you're using a font, for example, in Arabic or Kurdish, maybe you want to buy that font and you do want to upload it into this account. But in this case, I'm just going to change the font, and I'll make a more dramatic change so you can see just how easy it is. I can change the font size. I can change quite a bit about this. And then I can download it here, and I generally would download it with a transparent background. And then I can use that in different pieces of my business. So I use this for elements of my website, creating logos, all kinds of different graphics on the website. It's really fun. All right, so that is my show and tell for today. I am going to stop my share and just see if there are any questions. I hope that was fun and that you took away at least a few exciting tips for building a brand on your website. And I know we've gone over, sorry about that, but we also started late. So does anyone have any questions they'd like me to answer or try to answer? Thank you, Omar. Omar says it was great tools. And they are mostly free. So I believe that you can access all of these from your market. You're welcome. I believe you can access all of these and use the majority of them for free. You're welcome, Ranja. Any questions? My pleasure, Renu. Abash, thank you. No questions? No questions for your own business or anything you're struggling with? I love the thank yous, but if I can help you answer a question, please let me know. No. Okay, Sabo, looks like we're, I remember that you said choice the light. I don't understand the question.
Guys, do you wanna repeat the question? Do you wanna write it again? Do you mean she mentioned that you should choose light colors, if that's your question?
The last webinar. Okay, so here's some questions about colors. So the first question was something about light color. So just to clarify, I'm not saying you should choose a light color, but I did say that I myself, when I was looking at pink colors, I did not want to choose a baby pink. I wanted to choose a very bold, kind of in your face and fun pink. So that might be answering the question. And then Hamid, oh, how to choose primary and secondary color for your brand. So how do you choose a brand palette? So I would go into Pinterest and I would look at brand boards there. I mean, you could, let me share my screen again. Canva has these really great guides on color theory. So I'm just going back to Canva, to the main page. And down here, they have this thing that's called Design School. I actually use this in my MBA classes. And they have these courses, and they are free courses. So here's something about Brand Kit. And it's not coming to me right here, so I would just say Canva Guide to Colors. And so here's a whole tutorial on colors, color palette ideas, the color wheel, and color meanings, because someone else has asked, Hamid has asked, what is the best color for making trust for fundraising on a crowdfunding platform? So what I would say is that I wouldn't get too tripped up in the psychology of colors, and I would instead choose a palette that conveys the kind of energy or emotion that you want to put out there. And you can get inspiration for this from, websites. For example, like this is one of my website inspirations, and it doesn't look like my brand at all. I see your question, Ranjan, I'll come back. As you can see, there are pops of colors, but it does have this sort of kind of feel to it. And I really loved how the call to action buttons were pops of color. So you can go into here and you can read about color meanings, the color palette. I love this. You can upload a photo and then they pull the hues, but you can also use like ColorZilla to do that. And this color palette ideas is you can look through here and say, all right, so how do these colors work for me? I happen to like Pinterest to pull together different colors and see how I feel they look side by side. And you can see that's actually what I've done here. So I pulled together some pink and red images and sort of this brand vibe, which is not baby or girly. It's kind of funky and full of fun energy. Same thing for here. So that's what I would do, regardless of whether it's for my website or a crowdfunding campaign. And I'll show you an example of, this is crowdfunding maze. This is a restaurant that recently did a really great crowdfunder, and their company is called Maze, and they were building this yonder. So you don't have a tremendous amount. Here's Kickstarter. I don't know if you're using Kickstarter, but you don't have a tremendous amount of control because Kickstarter has their own logo. They're going to use particular, fonts. But if we go to the Maze website, the Maze website has, a very distinct brand, which this is like sort of country home cooking food. So it's got a lot of brand vibe, this color that's being used, this color, these beautiful food images. This is the chef. So if you look here, we see the food here, but we don't necessarily have all of those brand images. So I would just create the brand that overall works best for you. So I hope that answers the question, Hamid, for crowdfunding. Okay. Ranja says, for my brand, I made a small 450-ish community, you're welcome, in social media, and I want to serve them in different needs under the name of my brand. Okay, so do you have a question there? Maybe it was up above. Oh, I'm starting my brand, need to use some other products, which is not Min, but for starting, I have to use them. Am I still called a brand? Yeah, so Ranja, in that case, are you saying that you'll be creating products that yourself, but for right now that you're selling someone else's products? Okay, great. So it's the same thing. I mean, let's think about, here's a toy store I love. It's called Grasshopper Toys. And they are not making the toys themselves. What do you sell, Ranja, right now? Plant-based, selling plant-based foods. Okay, so you're selling, so to me, that's not much different than a market. That, you know, like somebody who's selling, so you could go to something like Thrive Market, which has a lot of plant-based foods, but it's carrying other people's foods plus their own branded foods. So they have this box thing, but this is their brand. So it looks clean and modern and has this specific, you know, color palette that we can see repeated, the blues and the yellows and the oranges. These are really intentional, and they're selling somebody else's brands. But you can see there, everything about this, the lots of white space, the pops of color, the focus on beautiful food. Here is some imagery, and the image is like, without actually saying it, saying through the photos, like, you know, it's very intentional that it's this looks like a multiracial family. So there's kids involved. So right away we're thinking busy parent, you know, this person is a label reader, talking about good for you and the planet, which is speaking to values. We give back to the community. This picture of who's the team. This is really important to have you on the website, like what your story, why did you start this business? This is all about emotional connection. And these kinds of graphic images are the sort of things that you can get on Creative Market. So if I went back to Creative Market and I was like, you know, hand drawn hand shapes. I don't know, I'm just putting something in here, seeing what I get. These are the kinds of images that you can get. Okay, I didn't get exactly what I wanted, but I got lots of things. And you can see there's the little elements that you can put on your website that is for your brand. So even if you're selling other people's stuff, you can absolutely, for now, and you'll be introducing your own things, you're certainly creating a brand with a visual look and feel for your website and other marketing assets. So I hope that helps. Bawar asks, you mentioned some good sites for great and free pictures. Can you please give us some resources for videos? Free videos stock. Let's see if there are any. I've actually never looked. Free stock video, Shutterstock, Big Stock, iStock Photo, that kind of thing. One thing I will say in Canva that is super cool is that you can see this animated social media. So it's not quite video, but it is animated. And there are a bunch of templates for that as well. And I don't know, let's see, is anything about you animated? Yeah. So I literally I did nothing. I just clicked and now I have this, you know, animated video. So when I grow up, I want to be a cat, but I can still, here's the cat doing their cat thing, but I can change the words. I can change all these colors. I can change the fonts. I can basically make any change that I want to, and that's pretty cool. Okay, Sausan says, which colors can I use in order to make a new brand of jewelry? So the first thing I would say, Sausan, is start with the colors that delight you. So literally start with the things that resonate for you. So I would go to Pinterest And I would start looking for brand boards, and then I would use an adjective that is the way that you want your people to feel. So I could do jewelry, and I could do modern. So here's some brand boards for modern jewelry. This is quite modern font, very minimalist. It tends to be sans serif. So let's say now that I want to go to feminine. So now instantly we see these, you know, more handwritten script fonts, and, you know, a little bit more stuff in there. And then we might want to go to, let's see, modern feminine. Maybe we want fun. So this is a completely different feel here. So I would really start by looking at Salsa, the colors that you like or that appeal to you, and use Pinterest to look at brand boards or gather ideas. You can also get ideas from art that you love. You know, maybe here's a book called This is Portland, and I love the graphics on it, wallpaper. It does not have to be something specific to a brand board. Just take inspiration from all around you. Maybe there is a shop front near where you live that has a really beautiful color on, you know, something in the store. Use that color, and then to start from there. So I'd get less concerned about like, if I use this color, somebody will feel this way, and more so about how does this color make me feel? And that's, you know, like I love the color yellow. I love that really happy yellow. So I use that. Hope that helps.
Wendy, maybe we should take Habash's question as the last question.
Habash, you say, can you tell me a recruitment agency that will be suitable company with travel agency? Can I make a recruitment? I don't understand this question. Sabo, do you?
So I think he means if he established a company that does tourism and recruitment. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kaubash. So one company doing two fields of business. Can they go under one brand?
If you're doing recruitment and you're doing a travel agency, should those two things be underneath the same umbrella and brand?
Yeah.
So I will tell you, I often work with people who have more than one idea. And Habash, tell me, is this a new business for you, or are both businesses you've been doing for a while and already are selling things and have customers? No, it's not new. What I would personally guide somebody to do, I mean, the first and foremost, you're the CEO of your company, so you get to make all the decisions and you get to live with the results of your decisions. That's the fun of building a company. I personally would not combine them under one brand and one website because they're very different businesses. So if we think about the target customer and the problem in the market, a recruitment agency is going to have, you know, either you've got a supply and demand. So you have the workers that need jobs, and you have the companies that need qualified workers, which feels very different than a travel company that has customers who have a different need than hiring somebody or being hired. So I would coach you to keep them separate. If you wanted to use similar kinds of colors, you certainly could, but I would have them to be two separate brand identities. If you were my client, I would also coach you to focus on one, honestly, unless both are profitable and going gangbusters. But what I find with most of the people I work with, the very vast majority of people I work with, is that they feel overwhelmed building the one business and need help and structure to get to profitable, repeatable revenue in their business. And so what I coach them to do is put one aside and focus on the one until you're at the point where it's just running like clockwork, and then pick up the other one. But you might be that special kind of person that has more energy than other people. And if that's the case, then I would still caution you, I would coach you to have them be two separate brands. But ultimately, it's your decision.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I think this was an amazing session. I'm
Oh,
pretty
great.
sure a lot of them benefit from all of the things that you shared. And if any one of you have any further questions, you can send it to me. You all have my email, and I will forward it to Wendy, and hopefully she will get back to you. I hope to see you all in our upcoming webinars, and thank you so much, Wendy. Have a wonderful day and good night to everyone else who's on the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabo. Thank you, 51 Labs. Thanks everyone for coming.
Bye-bye.